What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what's going on with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and Apple stock. I want to talk about the technicals of these different tickers and talk about what they're looking like so far, and some very important developments on the charts, which could be important for the week. But before I do anything like this, before I talk about like SPY and Tesla and all these other stocks and more specific details, I just want to mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends in just about 5 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down how the charts are looking. So, just as a reminder to everyone out there, in case you missed my previous video, when it comes to Apple, we had this very, very big sell-off for the past 2 days. It started selling off pretty hard. Then we had some bad news involving China that caused it to sell off even harder. And since that sell off, we were calling this bounce for Friday. If you look at the way Apple's looking, forming this inverse head and shoulders structure, and we're on the verge of forming this very, very nice looking wedge. I also want to note that from a fib retracement perspective, we held support very nicely. We saw buyers step in at key zones. That's another very good sign that this thing is gaining some strength. So around the 0.5 retracement, the 0.382, the same thing ended up happening. And Apple's trying to form this wedge, which could lead to a breakout to fill this gap all the way up here. Now, this full measured move could bring this thing even higher, all the way up to the 182s again. And if Apple were to start pushing like this, approaching the big event, which is happening on Tuesday, that's going to be bullish for the whole market. All right. But just because we pump like this, it does not mean that we're going to pump after the event. So you have to be careful with that. Not to mention that on Wednesday, we have CPI coming out. So you never know what's going to happen. But for Monday, if Apple really is going to pump, we want to see it break and hold 180. It made an attempt to do so, and it's trying to establish higher highs and higher lows. And this can have a very positive effect on the whole market, right? In my video from yesterday, I was talking about SPY. Just want to quickly go over this. There's a nice inverse head and shoulders structure, change in market structure too. We came to the 0.786 retracement right here. I measured this already, and we got a bounce off that. And that's where we got this close just above max pain, which is exactly what I was predicting. So with this inverse head and shoulders in play, as long as we don't break below this trend line, start breaking below 444 and start establishing a big shift, as long as there's no really bad piece of news, there's a good chance SPY is going to make an attempt on Monday, try to push above 447. And if we break it, this thing could just start making an attempt to get very close to either gap resistance, if not to fill the gap at 449. So there's a high probability of that potentially happening. That's most likely what's going to happen thanks to Apple. But we have to see it break and hold 447 first just for confirmation. So now when it comes to Tesla, I just want to mention something important about Tesla. Tesla's looking a little bit weaker than the market. I don't know if there's bad news that's set to come out, but we have this historical trend line from way back here that has been holding Tesla up. And what is good about Tesla is the fact that we established a higher low relative to before. Could this be a weird looking, inverse head and shoulders? I'm not too sure. I wouldn't really count that as a too clean development. But what I will say is that Tesla so far, it's very mixed. It did end up closing kind of red on Friday. Let me just pull up the Tesla chart. The 4-hour time frame is looking a little weaker than the market. So far, I haven't seen any really bad piece of news as of right now. The overall trend is still kind of a little stationary at these higher levels because we have some strong resistance at this 260 area, but support is also trying to hold it up around 442 to 445. So very mixed. We're going to be watching these levels carefully. If it breaks below this trend line because of some bad news, we could see Tesla revisit this this 245 area to 242 before trying to get that bounce. That could be a real possibility first, or it could try to bounce from here and try to make its way up to 250. Now, my gut is telling me, regardless of the news, I can't really predict the news, but without the news, we did establish a higher low and Tesla's still trying to hold around these levels. So I wouldn't truly say that it's looking weak and breaking down just yet. So the odds do favor trying to respect this uptrend, maybe slowly trying to make its way back up to 250, maybe chopping a little bit around there, consolidating a bit, and eventually pushing above this 250 area for a green close. That seems a little bit more probable as we have an uptrend that's being respected. But don't forget the news is going to be another big factor. So with Apple potentially pushing up, this could help Tesla try to hold very close to the 250 area. There's a good chance of that happening. Apple will play a big role as long as there's no bad news. And this could help, the whole market as a whole. On the QQQ, it has a very similar structure as Aapl. So we had this like resistance zone like right about here, which is going to be very important to watch for. We also had some very, very good buyers stepping in at the key Fibonacci retracement levels. So we have this wedge forming on the QQQ. You guys can see it's making higher highs and higher lows. And what's good about it is we have this potential slanted inverse head and shoulders that could act as a pivot point for it to start pushing higher. So far so good. If we take our measured Fibonacci retracement tool, you can see very close to where our key retracement zones were is where this thing got this bounce. It was very close to where this point 618 retracement happened to be, very close to our golden pocket. I think I have to adjust this a little bit, but basically it's very, very close to the 0.5 and 618 retracement, very much just close to our golden pocket. So very, very nice to see the QQQ holding up like that, getting some buyers. And we got a decent close. I think it closed kind of green. Let me just double check. So a little bit in the green. Not bad. It's kind of green in the after hours too. So starting to show some strength. The daily is still not getting a bearish cross on the PPO just yet. And there is a good chance that Apple's going to try to push this thing higher. So I'm going to be looking for a back test of this trend line. So it might kind of like retrace a little bit, then try pushing higher. And we could make our way up to this like upper trend line. And we'll see if it could break this or not. But we might see it just get very like tight approaching Apple's event, and then it could break in one direction. If Apple gets a break to the upside, it could start pushing much higher. If not, the complete opposite could happen. But I do anticipate there's going to be some more upside coming, some sideways price action, some upside, and more potential green as long as Apple holds the market up. If it breaks above this 375 retracement slash, not retracement, sorry, resistance, there is potential for it to push much higher to like 376 and etc. But for now, I mean, it looks like it's favoring the bulls a little bit more. It's holding up quite nicely, so we're going to be watching it. And I think the odds favor Apple trying to push it higher. Now, Nvda is going to be a really interesting one. And this is going to be the last one I talk about for the weekend video. For Nvda, it's at a very, very good place. And here's the reason why. When you zoom out of this chart, you are going to notice that Nvda has a tendency of testing this key support zone between 448 and 451-ish, maybe around like 450 flat. So we have a tendency of testing this area all the time and getting bounces off of it. So this is like our bounce zone. You guys can see many times Nvda got these big bounces and it came all the way down to these retracement zones right about here. So it's still in the level right now. It's still sitting at support. As long as it doesn't break below like 448 or below like the 448s, it's still going to be in a decent place, and there is still potential for it to try to make a nice bounce. Now we had some bad news involving the CEO selling some shares, but that was a long time ago, which is nothing out of the ordinary. If we get this bounce from right here, we're going to be watching 465. If that breaks, we have this big unfilled gap all the way up to 470, which could get filled. Now, there's a good chance Nvidia is going to make an attempt to hold these levels as long as it doesn't break below this support. And it's going to make an attempt to try to fill that gap and retest this area. We have this resistance level that has been developed from these trend lines up about here. And these like resistance levels, which have been connected. So we're going to be watching if Nvidia could try to base around here and get that balance. And I think there's a good chance of that potentially happening as we have like a double bottom like structure. And I think there's a high probability of us trying to make our way back up. We're at support right now, and we're going to be watching to see if we get that bounce. Don't forget the news is another external factor which could affect this, but I'm still leaning a little bit more in the direction of Nvidia trying to push up, and maybe Apple is going to help it out. All right, so anyways, that's just my really, really quick update video. We want to see Nvidia hold above 465, and that's going to be a good sign for it. I'm going to talk in more details about the charts for Sunday, but hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully you guys like this video. So I thank you. Have a great day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.